Grandpa Shell's last hunt. This happens in between 1971 and 72.
Yeah.
Grandpa Shell, he was dying of cancer, and one of his requests was to go and hear his dogs run for the last time. So Uncle Frank, Robert Merle, or Uncle Robert, and Uncle James take Grandpa Shell out to Macbeth area. They head on out there, and they had an old pickup truck. So he had to stay in the truck, and the three boys take the dogs and start running them out with their lanterns and everything. And they were majority time just trying to stir up anything, bobcats, raccoons, things like that. And it was mostly so that he could hear the dogs howling and get on a trail out in the distance. Okay, so the boys are out, the dogs are out, and Grandpa Shell is laying in the truck. And the truck had a camper, like a camper top on it. So they had a little mattress in the back of it for him. Now, I've heard two versions of this where he was laying on the front seat of the truck and then he was laying in the back of the truck on a mattress. I'm going to go with the fact that he was laying in a mattress in the back seat of the truck. It seems more realistic to the time period and everything like that. So the boys are running the dogs. It's nighttime. It's dark. And the truck goes. And Grandpa, he kind of looks around and everything, and he can hear this noise across the truck. And the truck still moves like this. So it was something of weight. Just as he grabs his lantern and looks up, a paw comes into the truck. And he starts screaming and hollering. And this goes on for some minutes. Then it's off the truck and takes off. So by the time the boys get the dogs back to the truck, and he's trying to tell the boys this story and everything. And in my opinion, I think that it was probably a small black bear, like they were eradicated.
I think it's black cats.
Which also it could be black cats because we have two more tales.
We have several instances that we've been collecting, just as amateur collectors of stories. We've been collecting black cat stories for several years.
So my dad, back in the mid to early 90s, he worked at the Phillips 66 refinery tank farm right across the Brazos River in Jones Creek, Texas. One of his jobs out at the tank farm is that he had to drive the perimeter of the tank farm at night. And he would see all kinds of stuff, bobcats, coons, and stuff. But there was this one particular night, it was kind of foggy, and as he's up on the levee going around the tank farm, as the headlights turn, he catches a large black cat with a long flowing tail crossing the levee from the tank farm backing up. So he guns it. Guns the truck, hauls butt over there, and gets his spotlight out, and he's spotlighting and everything, and he catches just a glimpse of the tail as it's hitting into the wood lines and everything. The problem is that there's about a 7-foot tall fence, chain link fence, all right, between the wood line and the edge of the tank farm, and it's got barbed wire on the top. So you're thinking this is probably a 9-foot fence for a cat or a deer or something to clear that, especially coming off of a levee and then having to jump straight up over about 9 foot, tells us it's a large cat to be able to clear that. All right, and you tell us about
my mom was security guard out at Monsanto, which is off
Chocolate Bayou,
Chocolate Bayou.
2004.
And she has a story of one of her guards that she worked with, a fence right off of Chocolate Bayou. There were people that liked fishing back there if they could get back there. So they would have to check that fence pretty often to kind of run off the fishermen that were gutsy enough to go back there.
It's good fishing. Redfish are back there. It's really good fishing.
So she was back there right about dusk, and checking the gates and the fence. And this lady, she was a really meek lady. She didn't talk a lot, but she come back to the guardhouse and told the story that there was a black cat, a big cat, that actually jumped the fence. Which this particular fence didn't have razor wire, but it was like a 6-foot chain link fence. So this cat jumped the fence over to the bayou. And the other guards, they just kind of hee-hawed it off, and it was just a pig, blah, blah, blah. You're just mistaking on what you were seeing. But her and my mom kind of analyzed it afterwards, and no, a pig cannot jump a 6-foot fence.
It'll push it up and go under.
Right.
It ain't jumping no fence.
And this thing had a tail. It had a long...
If I remember correctly, when Mom came home from work that day, or that evening, the next morning, she was telling us about it. At the time, I lived with them, and I remember I think it was before school, she was telling me that she made this motion of a tail. Now, a house cat doesn't have that motion of a tail.
A house cat would have a hard time jumping a 6-foot fence.
House cat would.
And what the heck is a house cat doing out at Chocolate Bayou right about dark, outside of a factory or a plant? So that is another story of a cat. But then several years later, as we're collecting these stories, my sister is actually doing a report in college. So she's collecting these stories, and my neighbor pipes up, which I live out towards Harris Reservoir. And my neighbor pipes up, and she says she had pigs at the time. So there was pigs like in the backyard. They were younger, so they weren't full-grown pigs. But the pigs started squealing. So she goes and looks out the back of her door to see why the pigs are squealing, and she sees on a log, just past the pig pen, this huge cat, and she described a very long sweeping tail that got up and left. So it got up and it moved like a cat. So it wasn't a coyote, because cats and coyotes, the dog family, are going to move differently.
Canine.
Yeah.
Feline and canine.
Yeah. They slink. They have that smooth motion. And she said this thing got up off the tree trunk or the log, and had that tail that just kind of, and then just went into the woods. So that is another story.
And that was out at where the old homestead is. Right?
Yeah, that's out towards Harris Reservoir, just off of Oyster Creek.
Well, now I'm kind of scared because I used to wander those woods alone, and I didn't have a gun or anything like that. And
Yeah.
For all I know, I was being hunted by a large cat. That's awesome. Thank you for giving me nightmares.
Yep.
I appreciate that. All right. Well. My alarm.
just like that.
I look modest, for God's sake.